Hi everyone, it's Shane, and today I want to talk about the International Criminal Court, or the ICC. I debate a lot, and the International Criminal Court is a very unknown part of, a very unknown part of the international systems that govern our world, but it's a very important part, and it has recently drawn controversy over like arrest warrants and stuff like that. It's just very interesting, and not only that, but recently they did the February Public Forum topic. So public forum is a type of debate, and the National Speech and Debate Association releases these topics. They actually released a topic about this. So that was pretty interesting, but we're not talking about debate. I just want to talk about the situation because it's so interesting and fun to talk about. So today I want to talk about the International Criminal Court. I hope that you enjoy this video. It's going to be very fun, and we're going to be talking about a very unknown part of international justice. So it's going to be very fun. So first of all, what is the ICC? Many people don't even know what the ICC is. I'm just going to call it the ICC because calling it the International Criminal Court every single time is hard. So it was founded under a document called the Rome Statute, and it actually started to operate in 2002. The idea began in 1999. One of the champions for the ICC became the United States of America. But here's the crazy thing. The United States actually signed the thing, but did not ratify the Rome Statute. So they just said, oh, we love the ICC. Make the ICC possible. Then they actually made the ICC possible. Oh, actually, yeah, I know that we signed. I know that we made over 100 countries join, but I feel like, we're not going to participate. The reason that the United States did not participate in the ICC was because of the fact that they were afraid that the ICC would start looking at United States war crimes. The thing is, unfortunately, it's kind of hard to say, but the United States has a very bad history of investigating alleged war crimes. For example, war crimes that were committed in Afghanistan, Iraq, that area. Investigators mostly just ignore the crime, say, oh, there's no accountability. They just say, oh, we don't believe you, to the victims, and they're like, oh, we'll let it go to those suspects. And that has just made over 500 crimes not investigated, which is not a very good way of running justice or a military, right? And so what the United States is afraid of is that the ICC is just gonna come up and start saying, oh, look, you committed this crime in Afghanistan, or look, you did this here, and then that's gonna check the United States power. In fact, it's not only the United States. While the Rome Statute has 125 states parties, or basically countries which say, oh, we agree to this, Russia, China, India, North Korea, and several other countries have said we're not going to do it, along with the United States. But other countries like France, UK, South Korea, Japan, and lots of African countries and Canada and a lot of other countries support the ICC. So it's pretty divided. Now, this has led to some countries saying, oh, the United States is hypocritical. There have been allegations about double standards and all of that, just because of the fact that why is the United States not participating in international justice? Why is the United States not doing anything about this? However, there has been while many countries support the ICC with countries becoming member states all the time, for example, Ukraine just joined in 2024. The thing is, the ICC has drawn a lot of controversy over the fact that they're very slow. they've only indicted 54 individuals, and while they were set up with the mission to like save, like kind of save the world, and so they cover 4 types of crimes: crimes against humanity, war crimes, I think genocide, and then the crime of aggression or something like that. But basically, they cover all of the things that you would expect: torture, war, death, mass killings, genocide, all of that stuff. Like the things that really are hard to control. And while some people have said, just, this is unfair. Like I'm not unfair. Sorry. Like the ICC has only prosecuted 54 people. 30 of the people that they actually say have done wrong are still at large. The ICC doesn't have a police force, so like it can't really do anything, and it can't force states or countries to participate, to like actually cooperate with them, which have left the ICC pretty powerless. It's also said so many times that we don't have enough evidence, or we're not gonna do this, which has been criticized by so many countries, because like, even though the ICC had evidence that the UK committed war crimes, they actually decided not to investigate that, which has led to people saying that it's politically motivated and racially biased as well. Because while like the ICC has said like dozens of times, we don't have enough evidence, or we're not gonna do this, or they just haven't investigated in the first place. They've taken years to have one case, and earlier this year, it was actually revealed that the ICC had no trials coming up, which is kind of crazy considering the fact that today's world is filled with crime, and yet the ICC had nothing to do for like a period of time in 2025. So it's like kind of crazy, because some people say, because like, ICC, what are you guys doing? You guys aren't doing anything. However, the ICC is a court of last resort. That's something that we must understand. The ICC is a court of last resort, and people are only going to use it if, one, national justice systems refuse to investigate a crime, or two, they just cannot, they don't have the capability. Now the ICC it has been revealed that 47 out of 54 of the people it prosecuted are African, and it took until 2016 for it to actually open an investigation that was outside of Africa. It was in Georgia. And like, that means that for 14 years, the ICC has been operating just in Africa. 9 out of its first 10 cases were African. This has led to African countries such as in the African Union and the African National Congress to all say that the ICC is racially biased, that it is not helpful anymore, that it does not do anything anymore. In fact, in 2017 or somewhere around that area, 2017, like a coalition of countries actually decided that they were going to go out of the African Union, out of the ICC. While that actually never happened, Burundi actually did exit the ICC in 2017. At least it was taken into effect in 2017, and the ICC has faced controversy about racial bias for decades, because it's kind of like, war crimes are happening everywhere, and yet 47 out of 54 is kind of high. However, people who support the ICC argue that that's not true, because in the end, the ICC is a court of last resort. Therefore, only countries that are not able to investigate these war crimes come to the ICC. Powerful countries like the ones in Europe, North America, South America, Asia, they're like more powerful, right, than like Africa, which has weak domestic justice systems and is still mostly underdeveloped. And so they argue that really, yeah, it makes sense that Africa would get the most attention by the ICC, because it's where almost half of all of the coups happen, where a lot of the violence happens, where justice systems are least able to fight these crimes, and where many leaders are accused of being dictators. Therefore, we should be focusing on Africa. So there's like lots of debates around this. Some people say the ICC is a racially biased, costly institution which costs over $200 million each year, yet barely solves any cases. Others say that the ICC is kind of a law enforcing institution which spreads justice, harmony, and peace all across the world. It's kind of hard to really decide which side is right. The ICC itself has obviously said that it's not racist and has denied this, and now there are cases again. There was the former Filipino president Rodrigo Duterte was accused of mass killings, and so that's a trial that's gonna happen like in fall of this year. But there's like all of this stuff happening, and the ICC has gone into the forefront. It has really gone into the spotlight because of Trump. So you know how President Donald Trump imposed sanctions on the ICC, which made the United Nations and like a lot of other countries criticize the United States for like harming such a good institution. But the ICC was sanctioned by the United States. This is a big deal because like 90% of all like international transactions are made in US dollars. So this could like freeze an enormous amount of ICC spending power and cripple its ability to really operate. However, so far it seems to like the impacts haven't really been seen. However, the fact that Trump has done this has raised claims of hypocrisy and has made people accuse him of of the international community of double standards and things like that. Because I mean, it doesn't really look good for the United States to blast the ICC, which it has done for the last 2 decades. And for the United States to try to cripple the ability of a still peace-loving institution to like actually investigate crime. So I feel like, this is my personal opinion, I think that the ICC is kind of a both ways institution. Like, it tries to do good. Like, honestly, while I do feel there is a focus on Africa, I think that overall, you know, like, actually, only 2 cases that the ICC did were not self-referred by an African country. And like, mostly the ICC doesn't even choose whether or not it's able to investigate in an area. It's mostly because of the United Nations Security Council or self-referrals or things like that. So in the end, it's not really like the ICC is picking and choosing these things, but more like the circumstances led to. However, it is true that the ICC has been slow and a bit inefficient and costly, and many people argue that it really is not doing anything. Like, just like one president even had an arrest warrant over his head, but was able to travel across the world and like go to countries that were states parties of the Rome Statute, which just shows that the Rome Statute, like, the ICC isn't that effective, which might be like kind of a waste of money. However, at the same time, the ICC has done its best. It's really hard to collect evidence. It's really hard to, you know, go to these foreign countries which are mostly like racked with violence and to actually carry out investigations and then to prosecute and convict these people. It's really hard to get a hold of these people, most of whom are like have a lot of power. Like, for example, it's going to be almost impossible for the ICC to actually get Vladimir Putin or Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, both of whom, you know, the ICC has issued arrest warrants. So like, it's really, really hard to actually do something like that, you know. And I think that people just are ignoring the fact that it's almost impossible to do something like that. However, at the same time, I'm not saying that the ICC is like amazing as well. There are like the amount of crimes that are happening hasn't actually gone down. You know, the ICC is still ignoring a lot of stuff. It dismissed like war crimes and that were committed by the United States, but not those by Africa. Like, it's kind of hard. You know, it's a very messy situation. The ICC is a messy institution, but in the end, I feel that most people should not judge the ICC as harshly as Trump is judging it. But the thing is, Trump is not judging it because of inefficiency. He's not judging it of racism or anything like that. He's actually judging it because the ICC told issued an arrest warrant against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm not gonna go into this. It's more like politics now. It's geopolitics. It's war and stuff like that. I'm not gonna go into that. However, I think that Trump, what he did there, was kind of a risky move, because this means that the United States is just like opposing international law. So obviously the United States has not been looking good on the international stage. So yeah, this is just harming the United States kind of credibility from one point of view. But you know, I mean, who knows how it's gonna go. But Netanyahu does not like this. Obviously, Israel has accused the ICC of being a meddling institution. The ICC has said that Netanyahu has committed like war crimes. Netanyahu denies this. It's just, yeah, again, like, it's a messy situation. But the actual like things that are currently being talked about are less about racism and things like that, though these have been historically big issues and are still big issues, and are mostly just more of a focus on the politically motivated arrest warrants that are issued by the ICC. Whether or not it's actually politically motivated is like hard to say. I'm not gonna say anything about that, because politics, everybody has their own point of view. However, I also feel that the ICC is like really, really, really careful about its arrest warrants, and I don't think that it's like necessarily politically motivated. I think that would be a bit too harsh. However, obviously, it's a messy situation. I'm not gonna say, yeah, I'm like trying to keep on the sidelines, just because, like, once you go into the ICC, because it's like such a contentious topic, once you go in, it's hard to come back out. Okay, so some people have said, yeah, ICC can investigate US war crimes, we should join the ICC. Others said that this limits our ability to fight other countries. However, also, the ICC has been argued by some as inefficient, just because of the fact of the United Nations Security Council. So the thing is, I'm sorry, but I didn't really come in here organized. Like, I kind of had a plan, but then as I began talking, it kind of fell apart. So it's kind of like just a bunch of information being pushed towards you. So the United Nations Security Council has 5 permanent members called the P5. Now, the P5 is consists of the United States, Russia, China, France, and the UK. If I actually got that wrong, I'm so sorry. But anyway, these 5 countries have a veto power, which no other countries have. And basically, this veto power allows them to like say, oh, that resolution or that bill, we're not gonna pass it. We can veto that. And Russia and China have actually used this veto power before to protect Syrian President Omar. Sorry, I'm like afraid that I'll say his name wrong, and then I'll like, yeah, sorry, but to refer a case to the ICC, which has happened historically. So that has led to people saying, well, that means that through the United Nations Security Council, nothing can really come to the ICC, because even the United States, France, and the UK are not guard their allies fiercely, and they're probably going to use their veto power to make sure that the crimes that they committed and the crimes that their allies committed are all not reported to the ICC through the United Nations Security Council, and so will Russia, China, and their allies as well. So in the end, if you look at it like that, through the United Nations Security Council, it's going to be really hard to get cases through, which has led to even more complaints. But overall, I feel that learning about the ICC is really important, because it really opens up this new world of international system, like international policy law and stuff like that a lot of people are unaware of. And to be unaware of an institution which at least tries, I'm going to give the ICC that. It tries. I don't know if it succeeds, but it tries to deliver justice. I think that it's really important, subject, especially as many countries have acted upon this, and there are people who are being arrested by the ICC, and the United States has acted up against the ICC. So it's a very interesting and contentious situation, and I feel like we will see more about the ICC later. Also, are you interested in nuclear energy? I know that it's kind of like suddenly so like out of the way from the ICC, but the next public forum debate resolution or topic is about nuclear energy. So that's gonna be something really fun that I also want to talk about in Jane's Chit Chat. I do debate, so I think that will be very interesting to like, you know, just do that, to just talk about it as I go along, because I'm gonna be researching these things anyway, so I might as well tell them to you amazing viewers. Also, for books, I know that I have been like kind of bad at like uploading. I will upload a few new books. I'm thinking about just going full into Nicholas Nickleby by Charles Dickens, and if I think I can do it, I'll also try to do Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I'm reading both books, and I'm like more than halfway through Nicholas Nickleby, and like halfway through Great Expectations. But the thing, and so I think that I can finish these books relatively quickly, so I'll be able to talk about them to you. So that's gonna be really fun. I'm really excited for the next video, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. I know that it was kind of like all over the place, but I really wanted to tell you about this because one, I actually know about something about global international policy, and that's like really interesting for me. It's a really interesting subject anyway, especially in today's context. And second, it's also I feel like kind of a it's like I feel like you know, previously on Jane's Chit Chat we've talked about like news and stuff like that. These days I'm more focused on books, but I kind of want to bring that back again. So here I am again, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time in some other video, and please make sure to check out my like previous videos as well, because like especially for Charles Dickens and stuff like that, we have I have like some decent videos about themes, lessons that we can learn, and like and topics from those books that I feel are I at least feel are really interesting. So please check those videos out as well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.